Hot Mic with Dom Izzo.
Really, Dom?
No. I like what Dom's doing.
Okay.
Dom Izzo.
Jeez, come on, Dom. What do you think I am, a magician?
Yeah, I'm fired up, Dom. What else could I say?
Absolutely. It was great to get on the field, and then Dom came up to me, and I'm trying to walk away from me. I just wanted to enjoy myself out there.
Hot Mic.
Great job.
There's got to be some kind of intelligent question about something. Is a
Hot Mic. Hot Mic. On the networks of WDAY.
You know, if it's not about sports, I find it very hard to concentrate.
Here's Dom Izzo. Dom Izzo.
Good Wednesday morning. Welcome, everybody, to Hot Mic here, live on WDAY Extra and Inforum.com. Live on location from the Izzo bunker here on this Wednesday morning. We the whole staff made it in, but we're doing the show here from South Moorhead on this Wednesday. You can see the snow has come. Luckily, the old dry slot helped us out, according to John Wheeler, that it didn't get nearly as bad as we thought it would be. So thankfully, it's still pretty nasty out there. The wind is howling, and it's still snowing a bit, as you can see at our various tower cams from across the region. But we're making it through, and we're on the back half, hopefully, of this thing. And by the end of, hopefully, today, we can start digging out and getting ready to rock and roll. Welcome to the show, everybody. This is the office. We get some work done in here between my wife teaching during the height of COVID. She was down here to now us hosting Hot Mic. And for you old fans of the old Bison video blog, you remember that I used to do my show from the bunker. This is probably as close as we're going to get to that here this morning. But we are fully locked and loaded. Our whole crew is back at WDAY today. So I appreciate them slogging in to get the show ready to on the air. And as far as I can tell, we are going to be a normal show for this Wednesday. We got a lot to get to today. Some fun guest lineup. And why wouldn't we have a blizzard that we are talking about golf, as we're going to do that with, we're on the doorstep of the Masters. Tom Hoagie found out who his playing partners are going to be, including one Phil Mickelson, that he'll play the opening 2 rounds at Augusta National with on Thursday and Friday. We'll dive into that coming up later on in the show. And as we sit here, we were supposed to be on Monday, start playing actual baseball games in high school in North Dakota. As crazy as that sounds. We'll chat about that, as it's not going to happen anytime soon. And with the temperatures is what we saw yesterday, at least in the forecast, going to be a bit warmer, but we're still not to the point yet where we're going to be playing any outdoor sports. So we'll get into that coming up too later on in the show. We always start our show with the highlights of the night. We had a couple of big games last night, and they don't get any bigger for the Minnesota Timberwolves. The Wolves, as you know, coming in, had lost their last 3 games, hosting the Brooklyn Nets, or on the road to the Brooklyn Nets last night. The Wolves started the night in 9th place in the Western Conference, meaning they would host the first of the 2 play-in games. Basically, they got to win out to get a chance to get out of the 9-10 and hopefully into the 7-8 spot. And they played a crazy game with the Nets, where the lead exchanged hands here about 7 or 8 times down the stretch. Dorian Finney-Smith had a huge 3 for Brooklyn. That gave the Nets a 95-93 lead in this game. Anthony Edwards was good. Karl Anthony Towns was feeling healthy. Remember, the Wolves had a rash of the flu go through the team. I'm not sure if that's to explain what happened for the loss on Sunday to Portland, but they did not play well, obviously, against the Blazers. Mike Conley was huge in this game. Finney-Smith's 3 made it a 2-point Brooklyn lead. Edwards came back, gave him a huge burst with a 3 to put him up 1. Cat had a big shot as well, as the Wolves got up by 4. And it was the Wolves' defense, ironically enough, that saved their bacon late in this game after a monster block from Edwards out of bounds. They actually reviewed it, stayed with, there was no foul on the play. The Wolves end up beating the Nets. 107-102 is the final to get to a mark of 40-40 on the season. A monster win last night in a spot where they absolutely had to have it, as they now even up their mark, as I mentioned, at 40-40 on the season. And as you look at the up-to-date standings now in the Western Conference with how things played out yesterday, the Pelicans ended up losing to the Sacramento Kings. So as we sit here on this Wednesday morning, the Wolves are a half game back of the Pelicans with 2 to go. And ironically enough, the Wolves will play New Orleans in the final game of the season on Sunday. They do not play again until Saturday against San Antonio. Here's a team that's only won 20 games. The Wolves have been terrible against the teams in the bottom half of the Western Conference. Actually, in the bottom half of the NBA. They just got swept by the Pistons this season. They lost already to the Spurs. They lost a couple of times to the Rockets. We mentioned the loss to the Blazers, but they got the win that they needed to get yesterday. So that's where they're at right now. If the playoffs, and I know everyone hates this phrase, if they were to start today, they would host Oklahoma City. That's in the 9-10 game, and then would still have to win another game to get into the postseason. Basically, they need to win out. The Wolves have to win their last two and have the Lakers lose for them to leapfrog to get into that 7-8 spot, because that's pretty much the only way that they can get there. And why that's better, because the 7-8 game is not the true loser out and you're done. If you lose that game, you still have another chance because you have to play the winner of the 9-10 matchup. So they got the win that they needed, but it's still going to be a slog. That's why that loss with Portland was so critical on Sunday. But they got a much-needed win last night on the road at San Antonio Saturday, home for the Pelicans on Sunday, and that'll be a wrap on the regular season. Now, if you would have told me in June after the Rudy Gobert trade that 42-40 would be the high watermark for this team, I don't think anybody would have believed that. I think we were all thinking in the 54 to 56 win range, but it has certainly not gone that way. Obviously, Cat missing 4.5 months of the season derailed those, and they just haven't played well against the teams that they should beat. So we'll see that game coming up on Saturday against the Spurs. It's funny, we talked about it yesterday when Mike McFeely joined the show about how quick the games are going in Major League Baseball. And the Twins obliged in that manner last night, playing the Miami Marlins and Sandy Alcantara, the reigning National League Cy Young winner, who was absolutely fantastic yesterday against Minnesota. And this is why, and I know Twins fans haven't seen this guy pitch, or if they have, it's been really infrequently over the last year and a half. He was great. And Alcantara got beat up by the Mets on opening day last week. He was electric yesterday. He goes the distance, only allows 3 hits, strikes out 5. The only run of the game came at a home run by Avisal Garcia. That came, off Kenta Maeda in the bottom of the second inning. And that was literally all that the Marlins would need in this game, because Alcantara was that good. He was dealing from the start that the Twins just could not get anything going. The crazy part of this, the game takes, actually rounded it down now, an hour and 57 minutes. He allows 3 hits. Just if you wanted to get out of there quick, there you go. We talked about it. I just said it. There was going to be a game under 2 hours long. The Minnesota Twins end up being the team that does it. No runs, 3 hits for the Twins. 1 run, 3 hits for the Marlins. Overlooked there, and you saw him in our highlight package, was Kenta Maeda, who made his return after nearly 2 full years. 5 innings, 3 hits, and struck out 9, which is, you like to see that. But the Twins could not help him out with anybody on base, and the Marlins get the win, giving the Twins their first loss of the season, and they drop to 4-1, and they'll wrap up their set coming up this afternoon. So for you, everybody that's snowed out, or for kids that are at home, they can see the game this afternoon coming up at noon as they wrap up their series with the Marlins. I don't know if I actually jinxed the Twins. I think I just told everybody that we might have a 2-hour, and that's exactly how that played out. So there you have it there for the game last night. We mentioned the Twins will wrap up series with the Marlins and then play coming home. And as Mike McFeely told us yesterday, what he was hearing was the home opener was going to be postponed. That, in fact, did happen. So for those that have not seen it, I don't know if you've been out snow blowing, the game is not happening tomorrow. So the Twins will be off tomorrow and then open up a series of the Astros on Friday. That's where they have that built-in day off to do that. So that's when that series will begin on Friday with the Astros. The weather forecast we're hearing for tomorrow in the Twin Cities, not nearly as bleak as it is here, but it was supposed to be in the 30s and potential snow in the morning. And Friday's supposed to be in the 50s down in the Twin Cities. And that's why they decided to go that route. And and move the game there. That's why I have that built-in buffer day to do that. So that's where the game will be happening coming up on Friday. We'll open up the home part of the schedule against the Astros. We mentioned here we're on the doorstep, though, of a huge sports day tomorrow with the Masters getting underway. The Frozen Four gets underway. I think people probably got that that's still even happening as that's going on in Tampa tomorrow with the Gophers playing BU in the first semifinal tomorrow afternoon in Tampa. So that was the updates for what we had going on last night from around the world of sports. Big day also today. We'll talk about this later in the show and what to watch. The Women's World Hockey Championships getting underway in Brampton, Ontario. The United States women playing later this afternoon. Bismarck's Britta Curl on that team, fresh off a national championship at the University of Wisconsin. Will be suited up for the red, white, and blue. Remember, she was this close to playing for Team USA last February at the Olympics in China. Got COVID as she was about to leave, but the Team USA didn't forget about her. She's back on the roster and playing for the World Championships, which it is not the Olympics, but the United States has owned this event to an extent even greater than they have at the Olympics. They have beaten Canada almost routinely at the Women's World Hockey Championships. That begins later today. Let's get Wednesday, despite the fact that I'm home. That's not disrupting our guest lineup. Drew Trafton will be by in his usual 9:20 time slot. We have to recap. Last week we did the NFL coaches photo, and the Kelsey brothers ended up doing it, and Travis Kelsey couldn't name about 10 guys. So I don't think we should feel too bad that we couldn't name a few of them. He'll join us in just a few minutes. We'll recap how his Mariners have started the season as well. At 9:35, Greg McCullough will join us, Edgewood head professional. And we'll get an update from him on the Masters coming up, when we think of the contenders who could win it this week, and on Tom Hoagie's potential chances to make a run after what he did at the Players' Championship. Hoagie, of course, played the weekend last year at Augusta, finished tied for 39th. We'll talk to Greg coming up at 9:35. At 10 o'clock, it is Wednesday, so Dick Bremer back with us live from Miami. It's about as different a venue as we could have for our show today, with us up here in the Tundra and Bremer down in Miami, as he'll be ready to get the call of the final game of that set for the Twins and the Marlins. Off to a great start. Twins have won 4 of their first 5 games. We'll recap how that's gone and look ahead to the home opener coming up now on Friday against the Houston Astros. And at 10:35, friend of the show, Brett Peterson, West Fargo baseball coach, will join us, give us the lowdown on what he's been doing with his team for the last 2.5 weeks. Now, mind you, they started practice, folks, 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago on Monday. They've been inside, and they're not going to be outside for a while. We'll visit about that. Also, guy that used to pitch for Brett, Matt Strom, was the starting pitcher last night for the Phillies at Yankee Stadium, a game the Phillies won. Might mean that Strom stays in the Phillies rotation for a bit longer. We'll visit with Brett about that coming up in just a few minutes. So that's our show lineup here from the bunker on this Wednesday morning. We'll take a break. Hot Mic is off and rolling. Ray will be back. We'll be right back here on WDAY Extra at Inforum.com right after this.
The biggest Seahawks, Sounders, and Mariners fan in the FM area. It's time for Views with Drew.
All right, back here live on this Wednesday morning. I'm at home. Drew Trafton is at his desk at WDAY, but that doesn't mean we stop doing our normal Wednesday morning segment. You handled the morning show today. How did everything go?
Yeah, things went pretty well. You know, we had a whole we planned this days out in advance, which is nice because winter storms you can actually do that, you know. And so we had emails went out. We had people coming in like kind of in shifts. We had people lined up to give other people rides if need be. And sometimes we've had to use that. And everything went like really, really well until the end of the show. Our live crew outside actually got stuck.
I saw that
on 52nd, and it came by, and then it just like kind of like shoved a bunch of snow in their direction. And so they had to dig out from that. And so, which, that happens. And it's a good example of why, even when, you're driving it, like you think that things are fine in town. You can get stuck pretty easily. Those guys were doing everything they were supposed to do, and just
I'm contemplating taking the camera out to the end of my driveway. I complain about this all the time to actually show the Berlin Wall that's at the bottom of the driveway here. The anticipate that it's going to happen as I'm on the air this morning. So I'm about.
They're going to wait until you're just done, right? And you're like,
that's exactly right.
It's like a movie. It's like, are you kidding me?
No. So last week we did the NFL coaches picture, which we weren't the only ones. I'm not trying to say we set the precedent on this, but the Kelsey brothers did it as well. And Travis Kelsey, like if we talk about most popular players in the NFL, in the top 10, couldn't name at least 10 of the NFL coaches. These coaches they knows.
We did okay. I think that's what I learned about that, is that we did all right compared to Travis Kelsey couldn't name 2 of the Eagles coaches that his with his brother sitting right there that have now become NFL head coaches. That's pretty good. Like
the best part is
did okay.
Like his brother Jason sitting there saying about Zach Taylor that he doesn't know who Zach Taylor is. That was my favorite part of the whole thing.
That was really good. Yeah. I don't know who that guy is. And I mean, it's like, okay, we held our own. I think, I felt pretty good because I think we got about half of them.
Yeah.
But it's hard when they're not, you're so used to seeing these guys on the sideline and they're wearing the same stuff every week. And so, you might get only like the brim of the hat, like down to here, the visor, they're all like they're holding up, their play cards, like right here. So this is what you're seeing, most of the time. And so it's hard to identify when they're wearing like polos or, Hawaiian shirts or whatever. And it's so awkward the way they have them just kind of like line up and sit like that, and row behind row. It's funny.
All right. Not funny is your Mariners 2-4 to start the season. I know they had a big win last night. They wiped the Angels out 11-2. What do we make so far of a team that we predicted to win 90 games so far?
I'm not giving up hope yet. Like I'm not pulling the, or breaking the, in case of emergency break glass thing. But, they've had a rough start offensively for sure. Like run production's been terrible. And then last night they busted out for 11 runs. So, it looked to me, I didn't get to watch the game or anything because I was sleeping, but it looked, the Angels were really like just hanging pitches up there and the Mariners were crushing it. But you have to do that on the nights where, your opposition is doing that. But Robbie Ray got hurt in his, his second start. And the only 2 wins they've been able to get have been when Luis Castillo's on the mound. And you obviously you want to win when your ace is on the mound, but holy cow, like they're kind of going through it a little bit. And they're trying to figure out, I think, their lineup a little bit. I'm not too worried about it yet. And Cleveland's a good team, and Cleveland made him pay. But yeah, it's after making that prediction I was last week and like doubling down on like this is the year, and they love their lineup and they've got this all figured out. They had a rough start because of course, but the guys in the middle, like the guys that you want to see be productive, like Julio Rodriguez, Ty France, Eugenio Suarez, they've been hitting and that's good. And so now it's like, I think kind of up to, Teoscar Hernandez and, like some of those guys to like get the bats going. Cal Raleigh's also been hitting really, really well. So once the rest of the lineup kind of catches up, I think they'll do okay.
We're going to have to break here, Drew, for a second. I want to hang on here. So let's do this quick. I want to come back. We'll chat about the 1 hour and 58-minute game that the Twins played last night. And we'll do a few, and then we got to talk some Seahawks stuff as we're a couple weeks out from the draft. So we'll take an early break here. Back more live on Hot Mic on WDAY Extra at Inforum.com. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to Hot Mic on this Wednesday, April 5th. It looks like January 79th out right now. And Eric's joining us right now. Surprise. We moved to the studio because we were having some technical difficulties.
I
in the
love
commercial
technology.
break.
Oh, yeah.
You got to love it. But as they say, the show must go on. And so Dom will be joining back here in a few minutes, hopefully, and we'll get things back on the track. But I think Dom said before we went to commercial break when I was upstairs in the newsroom and sprinted down here.
Yeah,
you
and I
actually sprinted a lot
I
farther
sprinted
away than I
upstairs
had
to go get you.
and then back
and then
down,
back down
to
because I
the
don't know.
studio. We're on completely different floors. We were
Yeah.
we were literally on the 3 different floors of the building, and boom, boom, boom. Here we are. You wanted to talk a little bit, I think, about the NFL draft coming up. We're only 3 weeks away at this point. It seems like the QB conversation's heating up in the top 5 picks there.
Yeah, I don't know who's gonna go number 1 overall. I think it's gonna be down to Stroud or Young from Ohio State, Alabama. That's just my opinion. The interesting pick, I think, is at 4 with the Colts. What are they gonna do?
Yeah. Well, and what are the Cardinals going to do at 3? Are they going to actually pick? Are they trading out? And will that dictate what the Colts have to do? So, I guess Dom's back, which is awesome.
That's awesome.
I don't know if he is.
Go to the app. There you go. Just refresh it.
Refresh it.
Live TV, folks.
Yeah, we're doing this.
We're doing this on the fly. All this fun stuff.
Connecting, authenticated. There's
hey,
Dom.
we see Dom.
I don't. Is there a button here, Eric, that I have to push?
It should be live. Dom should be. Oh, there's another message. Dom should be able to hear us now, I would think.
Dom, can you hear us? Are you there, Dom?
I'm there.
Hey, all right.
Hey, Dom's
hear
back.
him?
I can hear him in my headset.
Okay. Can everybody hear him over the TV? Kyle, can we?
Kyle, Michael, can we hear him back there?
Are you hearing Dom? I'm hearing Dom.
I'm hearing Dom.
Eric's hearing Dom. All right.
Hey,
welcome back to your own show, Dom. Great to have you here.
I love technology. Yes.
Yeah,
Appreciate you guys helping out there.
Yeah. So we were just talking about the first 5 picks in the NFL draft.
Yes.
And
Send Vanel back to the studio so you get back to work. So
I have been working.
And we were talking about the intrigue seems to be, at least in the last week, that what are the Cardinals going to do with that 3rd pick? We know that they want to trade out of it. We know that, but who could jump in and what would they give them for that pick? And then assuming that's a quarterback move, do the Colts then take the 4th quarterback off the board and leave maybe Will Anderson sitting there at 5?
Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen here. The thing is, we were talking about it yesterday. Anthony Richardson's blowing up right now. That his attention is pretty high on him. So I'm curious to see what happens there. But
do you think
do
you think this could be like a kind of a situation we had last year, where right after the pro days we saw kind of with that really bad quarterback class, we saw a little bit of hype built up like around Malik Willis.
Yeah.
Just because of his athletic profile. Do you think that we might be in a situation here where that dies down a bit leading into April?
Potentially. I'm really intrigued to see what how this all transpires here. We know Young and Stroud are 1-2 in whatever order you want to go there. Like you mentioned, Arizona's the intriguing part. I got an email to ask you about what another Seahawk fan asking about what Seattle's going to do. I think that's still a question mark for what the Seahawks are going to do with their pick sitting there at 5.
Yeah, well, I think if Will Anderson Jr. is there, like if there were 4 quarterbacks taken off the board, you sprint up to the podium and you take the guy, because he just seems like just this, just from on paper, he looks like the slam dunk talent. When you get a guy from Alabama like that, I think they could look to trade back, because I'm not sure if Jalen Carter, who to me would be the next best talent there, is the guy you want to take at 5. And I've just been really intrigued by the idea of them maybe finding a trading partner. Potentially, Philadelphia makes a lot of sense to me. With like maybe if they wanted to move off and come up to grab their guy, do they can you swing a deal where then you take 10 and 31 from them, and then that kind of evens out. I'm not sure what the trade value would look like there, but then maybe if Jalen Carter's still sitting there at 10, then Seattle could potentially move in and grab him, or they could then look at maybe cornerback, or they could look at, kind of filling another need there, kind of just taking the best available and then kind of reshaping things, because they then pick again at 20. and then they would have 31, and they could potentially get 3, first round picks out of it. So I just think they're in a really good position because no matter what happens in the 4 picks ahead of them, they're really going to be in a good spot to then maybe leverage that for more draft capital, pick their guy and go. Or, I've seen some talk about them potentially moving up if they really fall in love with a quarterback. They could package that 5 and 20 and then, maybe another pick, whether that's a second or, next year's second or first somewhere and kind of leveraging that.
What I'm really intrigued by is when we look at how this is all going to play out just with the quarterbacks, it's always that ends up dominating the talk, and it will be again here, is about who actually is going to go where. That this whole next 3 weeks is just it's lying season. Kyle Emanuel and I were talking about it yesterday. This is what the next 3 to 4 weeks is going to be about leading up. And it's 3 weeks from tomorrow is the first round of the draft. And I imagine that's what we're going to have between now and then.
It's all about smoke screens, right? Like that's each one of those pro days that they went to where they sent John Schneider, the general manager, and Pete Carroll, the head coach, together. They took a selfie with that quarterback and posted it, and I don't know if that was just kind of, throwing shade at the Broncos saying like, here's what your number 5 pick could have bought you this year. Or if they're just trying to build a little bit of anticipation there so they could use that as leverage, for a team that's trying to move into those top 5. But it is always interesting to me too. You start hearing some names floated around that could be in there. I think Hendon Hooker's name has been tossed around a lot now. It seems like people are cooling off of Will Levis all of the sudden. Yeah. And then Hendon Hooker's name's being thrown in there, which is kind of interesting in the mix. And then you look at just the other prospects that are floated around in these top 30 visits, and you just kind of like, scratch your head a little bit. Like, in the Seahawks situation, again, they're bringing in a bunch of offensive linemen to talk to in their top 30 visits that really don't have a lot of first round grades out there. So it's kind of curious. It's like, okay, it's interesting to see how these teams are using those visits as well. But yeah, the Cardinals pick is really intriguing to me because I think that's where you could kind of start to see some things go haywire. And then I saw that the Ravens brought or they're going to have a top 30 visit with Anthony Richardson.
Yeah.
Which is interesting now because it's like, okay, are they going to move into that number 3 spot?
All right, you've done enough here. You go back to work. Thanks for pitch hitting and running down there as we were making sure we were good to go.
Hey, no problem.
As always, thanks for the time. And, of course, 3 weeks from tomorrow, Drew will be part of our Hot Mic mock draft that'll be taking place once again on WDAY here on Hot Mic. Thanks, bud. Here he goes. Drew Trafton joining us in studio. And I believe our next guest should be ready to rock and roll as I'm letting him into our chat is one Greg McCullough, of course, the head pro at Edgewood Golf Course, who as we get set for, we're talking about, we got a blizzard outside. Why not that talk golf as we're on the doorstep, of course, of the Masters and that getting ready to get started, of course, tomorrow and the anticipation of what's to come there. And Scotty Scheffler had his big dinner last night, which I'm sure Nick Fallow put out the best tweet of the night because everyone was wondering, how it would go. And he said nothing was too crazy about it. So everything went well there. And that's good considering all the anxious and drama that was around that. I think that was the intriguing part. So we'll see there, but the part for me that's really interesting as we get set, Tiger Woods is going to be back and the anticipation of seeing him play, of where this is going to go and how this is going to play out. That part to me is really the intriguing part on how this is going to go. And hopefully we'll get Greg up here in a second. Okay, we're good enough here. Greg McCullough is back with us now, the head pro at Edgewood Golf Course on this Wednesday morning. Hot Mic rolling on, WDAY Extra, Inforum.com. I'm at our lovely All right, back live here on Hot Mic, WDAY ExtraInforum.com with one of our great friends, Greg McCullough, joins us, head pro at Edgewood Golf Course. We're talking golf, why not, on a blizzard on the 5th day of April. We should be out playing high school golf or something, but the Masters begins tomorrow. The par 3 contest comes up later today. I'm looking at the live odds here. I know it's a slam dunk to bet on Scotty Scheffler as the reigning champ. Rory McIlroy obviously had a great run. Rahm's playing out of his mind. Is there a guy that we're not talking about that has a chance to win this thing, or is it just pretty much easy to go with the favorites?
You know, the Masters tends to be a favorite type golf course most of the time. I think one person who's had a really good year, who's on kind of a comeback, would be Jason Day.
I heard that yesterday, that Day is kind of, what's the deal? What's the momentum on him?
Well, you know, he's faced some injuries in probably the last 4 to 5 years, and you know, like all those younger guys, you know, he's got a growing family. So I think between not being able to practice and trying to come up with time to do all the stuff that you want to do as a dad, I think that's probably kind of interrupted for sure practice time. And now I think he's seeing somebody new, and they've got him swinging at it, so I think he can practice a little bit more. And he's actually had a really good start to the year.
We're hearing plenty about the weather, not only here, but obviously down there. I mean, from your experience and what that can do to that golf course, especially if it rains a lot, how does that make it even more difficult? Does it make it longer if it rains a lot?
Well, you know, it's a 50-50, right? I mean, if it's super firm and fast, it plays a lot shorter, but I think the golf course and the greens play a lot more difficult. If it plays a little softer, I think the guys are so good they can kind of get it around in spots. If you look at one person who's played majors and won majors when it's been super wet, would be Rory McIlroy. Yeah. I mean, I think, you know, that might be the only way he can win there.
Our guy Tom Hoagie is back, Greg, for the first ever time that we're going to North Dakotan play the Masters twice. His play, and you and I have talked about it on the show at the end of the year, got him an invite here by making it into the top 30. He's now the course record holder at Sawgrass, which I want to ask you about how big a deal that is. We had him on the show Friday. He said there's only so much you can do when you're not there, but being there, that's where you can obviously get your work done. How can you bank on a lot of experience though from last year to help this time, or does it not help?
Well, I think actually he said it best. He goes, at least I know where I'm going now on a day-to-day basis and where everything is at. I think that's part of a comfort level. I mean, again, right, this tournament breeds people who have been there a lot. So there is definitely an advantage to being there multiple times. And, you know, Tom brings up a great point. You can't recreate it anywhere, so you got to be there. You know, I think the people who have done well there have kind of sneakily been there a lot, which would kind of lead you to believe Rory McIlroy maybe cares about it a lot this year, because he's been there a lot this month, a lot in the last 30 days, probably 15 days of the last 30 he's been there. So he's kind of putting his eggs in one basket, and you know, we can see what happens. This is one of those, I say this all the time. You ask me who's going to win today, there's 40 guys. After the first day, you have a pretty idea probably who's going to win.
He's going to play with Phil Mickelson, Greg. How big a deal is that? And I don't know if sideshow is there because Phil obviously didn't play last year. Is that Tom is so good and in the zone, even on a normal golf tournament. Is that going to be a thing at all tomorrow, do you think, or not so much?
You know, it can be. We just don't know with all those players what's going to happen with them. We don't know if they're playing any good. They could be playing great. We don't know about it. You know, Phil could go out there and shoot a million. That doesn't necessarily help Tom, I don't believe. But when the circus is going on, Tom has played better when the circus is going on around him. So maybe that's a good thing. And I think the crowds will be, you know, for Phil, at least to start with. I don't think there's going to be a lot of extracurricular there. So, you know, left-handed, right-handed, hits it far, hits it short. The circus is going on. Tom, again, right, one of his big advantages that he does have is he's really good at focusing.
Yeah. Well, and he's played in the ultimate circus. He's played with Tiger Woods, in California, and he beat Tiger head-to-head. So, I mean, it can't get any bigger or crazier than that, right?
No, and at the players, who was he playing with? Justin Thomas?
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Right.
you know, he seems to elevate his game when he has somebody like that around him. Atmosphere could be.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's going to take a really good effort. You know, last year he wasn't great strokes gained up, you know, with his iron play, which is usually his kind of his deal. So the length of the golf course, you know, until we actually see how they set the golf course up, I think that could be good or bad. They're going to get a really hot day tomorrow, and then they're going to get a rainy day. Hopefully they get it in, and then it's going to get colder. So, you know, is that an advantage? Probably. You know, the last time it was super wet, you got people like Zach Johnson winning. So, you know, we think that will hurt the longer players, but it seems to help them in the end run.
Greg McCullough joining us, Edgewood head professional. I am interested. One of my favorite sports media podcasts I was listening to was describing that the PGA ratings, Greg, have been through the roof. Like, they've been even better for not even the big tournaments like the Players or the tournament champions, but just some of the average events. What do you think that? I mean, I know the tour has added some tonnage, like they're on more, but is the whole live thing drawn more viewers, casual viewers, you think, to watch?
Yeah. You know, I think part of it honestly could be the weather. You know, the weather around the country has been horrible. So we're looking for something to do. And again, golf's kind of hot, still on that COVID bounce. So between the two of them, you know, hopefully that continues. And again, we live, like it or hate it. We don't know what really is going on there. But it has brought more casual people probably into at least trying it.
I am interested. We visited about this with Tom last week. He played it down so much, but I'll ask you, since you know that a 62 is ridiculous. A 62 at TPC Sawgrass, for us mortals, can you describe how difficult and how impressive that was?
If you try as a golfer, if you went out there and tried to play the hardest golf course you could find and you shot 62. Now, one of the reasons that those things happen is weather, right? It was, the golf course was soft. Now, having said that, that golf course is really hard. So for us, that's something we can't figure out. But if you would go to, even where you normally play, and you shoot 10 shots better than your best round ever, that would kind of be what it's like. And then add everybody watching and all that stuff. Again, right, one of the advantages that Tom has is he loves that. You can't tell he loves that, but obviously there's something that clicks on inside him when that happens.
The fact, though, I thought that he followed up and played really well on Sunday, a T3. I mean, that to me was almost as impressive as what he did Saturday, right?
Oh, no. You look at scores on the PGA Tour, when somebody shoots a low score, it's really hard to come back with another low score.
Yeah.
So he actually did it 3 days in a row. He gave some away on Friday, probably thought he wasn't going to make it. Yeah, it's easy to sit here for us and say, well, he had nothing to lose. Well, you kind of do. And then to have that day Saturday and come back and really play pretty good on Sunday. So we know his game, his game is in a pretty good spot. And he seems like he understands what he needs to do and where he needs to go with it. And again, right, it doesn't appear to be any really ups or really downs. He is just flatlining it, which a lot of times in golf, if you get it kind of going on, is a good thing.
Yeah. You mentioned this earlier. Is there a score tomorrow that he can shoot that? Well, I know, but you can play yourself out of it tomorrow, but if knowing that we don't know the conditions yet, but if it's going to be warm and maybe the best day of the weekend, what's a good score for him to say, okay, I'm going to be in maybe not contention to win, but in the top 20 to get an invite to come back next year?
Yeah, I think some of it depends on how they set the golf course up. But that first day, he again, right, another one of those great things about the way he's playing in my opinion, he's got a great draw. He plays at 12:30, and then he plays in the morning the next day. You don't have a lot of waiting around. Yes, we know that golf is very tiring, and Augusta's hard to walk. But I think if he shot anything, if he would shoot 70 or better tomorrow, I think that would be a really, really good start. Doesn't mean he can't do it at 73, but if you can get it around in 70, Tiger has always said, right, I'm just trying to get myself in contention for the last 9 holes, and that's honestly true.
Is there a hole that you love to see when it comes on TV? You say, okay, this is we see it once a year. This is the one golf hole I love to see. Well,
for me, it's kind of 15 actually. They've taken it away a little bit, but we'll see. 13 got a little goofy. I think all the players are going to like what they did on 13, even though that makes it harder. It makes it way easier for the player off the tee. You got a lot of chances to make it a low score or make a high score, and you got to sit there. You got to hit 2 consecutive good shots. Now you got to hit a really good tee shot. And you can make 3 or you can make 11 pretty easy there.
Right? We've seen the tournament for a guy who had a chance to win or be in contention. Either it leaps him right into it or it takes him right out.
Yep. And we'll probably, we'll probably see that. They do such a tremendous job of setting up the golf course, and we think that should be pretty easy. And when you have the best players in the world on that kind of course, it's got to be really difficult. So I'm sure they have a plan and they have a contingency plan of how they're going to do it. But let's, again, right, Tom, just every day don't make something goofy. Like you said, you probably can't win it Thursday, but you can certainly knock yourself out of it.
All right, I hate to bring up a sore subject, but how much snow do you have, and when do what are you hearing about potential of actually getting out and playing a round of golf up at Edgewood right now?
Sure. The good thing is we did not get 25 inches of snow yesterday. The Snowmageddon kind of missed us, which
yes.
That dry slot is a really good thing for me and us. You can throw the numbers in the computer. We do not need any more moisture like anybody else does, for sure. And then we just need a little bit of, some kind of melting to get everything going. The numbers are the numbers. We'll see what happens. The nice part about working where I work at Fargo Park State, a great team. We got great leaders. We have, there's a plan in place already. So, whatever happens, we'll take it.
I know it'll look great as well as it always does when we get a chance to get out there. I always appreciate the time. Thanks so much for doing this in the middle of a blizzard to talk golf, and enjoy the weekend. Okay.
Yes, sir. No problem.
Thanks, bud. Good to see you, man. Yeah. There he goes. Greg McCullough joining us here on Hot Mic on this Wednesday morning as we get on the doorstep of the Masters, which is set to begin tomorrow. The par 3 contest coming up later today. As we mentioned, Tom Hoagie will tee off at 11:25 tomorrow morning. He'll be playing with Phil Mickelson. And then it's at 9:12, I believe, on Friday morning. That's Central Time that he'll tee off to play in the second round. The neat part about it, I know we got to go to break. Dick Bremer's coming up here in just a couple minutes, that you can watch all the golf holes. Every single shot that he has, you'll be able to watch Tom play, whether it's on TV or not. Most of the time it's going to be online, but you'll be able to watch all of his shots for the first 2 rounds at the Masters. We will break. We'll come back. We'll start hour 2. Dick Bremer will join us from Miami as the Twins look to wrap up their season opening road trip, going 5-1 with a day game against the Marlins. Hot Mic live on location from the Izzo Bar. We're back after this on WDAY Extra and Inforum.com.
This is Hot Mic on the networks of WDAY. Here's Dom Izzo.
A drive to left field. He has done it again. And a leaping catch on the warning track. Got it. And the Twins complete the sweep.
And we're back here on this Wednesday morning. This is like the complete polar opposites. We've got a 5-foot drift outside my house, and Dick Bremer's in Miami, Florida. If that doesn't tell you the craziness of the winter season, I'm not sure what does. As he's getting ready for a broadcast, the Twins are coming up at noon today, wrapping up their series with I can't even say friends and family, Dick, at the ballpark. How many people have been there the last 2 nights?
Oh, maybe total 6,000. I mean, they had the best pitcher in the game yesterday, and I don't know that there were 2,500 people here. It's really, really sad because they've got some players. They have not developed the fan base. They haven't nurtured it, if you will, over the years. It's been going on a long time here. I don't know what the answer is, but it's a shame for the people who are here. There are some other kind of tough situations in baseball, Oakland and Tampa Bay, but they at least have the excuse of not having a good ballpark. Well, this thing's pretty much brand new, and they're still not drawing.
So Mike McFeely and I yesterday are talking about how fast the games are going. And I said there's going to be a Major League Baseball game that's going to go under 2 hours. And then later that last night, here we go, an hour and 57 minutes. I mean, this is, I don't know if this is what baseball wanted. Did it feel like the game was flying last night?
Yeah, it did. I mean, when you only get a handful of hits, and you've got two good pitchers going at it, they're throwing strikes, they're getting strikeouts. Twins were putting the ball in play, just not with any authority against Alcantara. That's what's going to happen, and that's for those of us who are a certain vintage. We remember games like that. It used to be a lot of games were right around the 2-hour mark, but this has been kind of an abrupt but really wonderful development this year that the pace of the game is so much better than it was.
So the game starts at whatever 5:40 yesterday, and I said, okay, well, my son goes to bed about 7. I'll come back upstairs around 7:45, 8 o'clock, and watch the end of the game. The game's already over.
Yeah.
Like, this is crazy.
Well, wonderful for the game, and we've talked about fans in your part of the world who want to come to a game. You're not probably going to get a 1 hour, 57-minute game, but it's not going to be 3 hours and 47 minutes either. I don't think. We haven't had one of those, but it's been a time saving so far in the Major League season of over a half an hour, which is even greater than the time savings in the minor leagues last year in the Southern League. So I think everybody's a big fan of it. I haven't heard anybody complain that, the game is just moving along too quickly.
Kenta Maeda makes his first start in nearly 2 years, 5 innings, 3 hits, struck out 9. What do we take from seeing him back on the mound?
Well, he sure looked good, and he got more strikeouts than Alcantara did. There seemed to be the stuff that we saw in 2020. What will determine how much he can contribute this year is how he feels today and how well he'll be able to pitch in his next start, which I think will be against the White Sox at home. So it sure was an encouraging sign. So here we are, 5 games into the season, and the Twins are 4-1, and their starting pitchers have pitched 26 in the third innings and given up 3 runs.
Yeah. That's how you get to be 4-1. It's a pretty easy, and the bullpen has done its job as well, has been really good on the back end.
Well, you don't like losing 1-0 ball games, but then, just a few days ago, the Twins were winning 2-0 ball games. So if that's the way that baseball is going to be played this year, I think the Twins have a competitive pitching staff that will allow them to win some of those games.
For a lot of Twins fans, Dick, that was probably their first introduction to Sandy Alcantara yesterday. A complete game. He was the Cy Young winner last year. This guy, there's no shame in losing to this guy. He's really, really good.
No, 97, 98 in the 8th and 9th inning. And it's the maintenance of the stuff and the velocity that separates him, like it separated Verlander and Scherzer years ago. This guy's really, really good. I don't know whether he has a long future here in Miami, but he's just a delight to watch. You don't like losing 1-0 ball games, but my goodness, is he good at what he does.
So I want to go back to Saturday afternoon. I flip on and see Buxton running around the bases, and then he has a hard slide in a second, and everybody in the upper Midwest has their heart in their throats. Like, are we really doing this again? Obviously, Buxton was okay, but it's just that momentary when, hey, he's not getting back up. I'm sure everybody, yourself included, like, oh, are we doing this again?
Especially given what happened last year in Boston. Right. The slide itself looked harmless, and it pretty much didn't end his season, but it ruined it. He really wasn't able to use his legs much after that. I was curious. He wasn't in the lineup last night. He is today. But when Larnach hit the ball into the right field corner, Buxton scored from first.
Yeah.
And that I took as a really encouraging sign. We can talk about Trevor Larnach, how many triples is he going to get. But if Buxton was at all hindered with his legs, he probably would not have scored from first on that ball, and Larnach would have had a double rather than a triple. So I think the signs are there that, so far, things are going pretty good. I looked it up here just a little while ago, getting ready for the telecast. 4-1's great. Twins hope to win today. It'll be 5-1. They haven't had a transaction yet. And so I counted the transactions last year. And from opening day till the end of the season, they averaged about 10 transactions per week.
Wow.
More than one a day.
Man.
So far, they're healthy. We hope Kepler will be able to be back in the lineup on Friday. And so far, so good.
On the show, him running up was it just he stepped awkwardly on the bag? Do we know what actually happened?
Yeah, I haven't talked with Max about it, and we saw it. We've seen it a few times where it's not the acceleration, rather it's the deceleration after somebody gets to the bag. I don't think he stepped on the bag awkwardly, and I don't want to blame the artificial turf. Beyond the cutout here, it's artificial turf, and I don't know whether that contributed to it or not, but the main thing is Maeda's fine after leaving the ball game yesterday, feeling a little twinge in his fingers, and it looks like Kepler's going to be fine too, and hopefully in the lineup on Friday.
So we put a little video here together of both Joey Gallo and Trevor Larnach of what they have been able to do offensively, which Gallo is exactly what he's done is what he is. But Larnach's hitting the cover off the ball. How big have these two so far been in the lineup? Obviously, I know they're hitting the ball well, but just it just adds more length to the lineup, does it not?
It sure does. And here's how much length that Larnach has provided. He's the only left-handed batter in the lineup today against Jesus Luzardo. Gordon's going to sit, Kepler's going to sit, Gallo's going to sit. So what we've seen from Trevor has been really, really encouraging. And, and I feel a little bit vindicated, and all of us do who've talked about Larnach and how good he can be if he's healthy. Well, so far he's healthy, and I think we're seeing how good he can be.
That's the ability to hit the ball all over the place, at least for Larnach. That's the part that's really, at least for me, that's exciting to see.
And power to go out in all fields. And, he's a great guy, and I saw him do a MLB Network interview yesterday, and he said he's just praying that he can stay healthy. I mean, we're frustrated when the best players get hurt, but can you imagine how the players feel? That's their livelihood. They want to get out and play and do their thing, and so he's very prayerful that he can stay in the lineup and be the productive hitter that made him a number one draft choice.
How about for Gallo? I mean, I know it comes in streaks, so is this just riding this one right now with him?
Well, yeah, I mean, a couple games, he smashed the ball. He had 3 home runs and a double, and they were all hit over 100 miles per hour. But then he didn't get any hits last night, and I think that's going to be kind of it is what he has been in his career.
Yeah.
And it's going to be, I've likened it to a turn signal in a car, right? It's on, it's off, it's on, it's off. And I think that's kind of Joey Gallo's career, but it sure is, when he's on, it sure is fun to watch. He can take over a game.
Watching Tyler Mahle pitch on Monday, I thought the important thing, and I mentioned this on the show yesterday, was the velocity that you saw it in the mid 90s, which is what he did in Cincinnati. He wasn't doing that after the first couple starts. At least that, to me, was the big takeaway on Monday. You agree with that?
Yeah, I do. There's a reason the Twins gave up some pretty good minor leaguers to get him. They were trying to stay in the race last year, and that didn't happen. But, again, this team was built with so much depth, not just in the rotation, but in the bullpen, position players as well. But the hope is these 5 guys are going to be able to do this for a while, every time out, giving you a real good chance to win a ball game.
I guess, is it no surprise the announcement came yesterday that the home opener got moved today? With what I know, what we got here, I know it's not nearly as bad in the Twin Cities, but I think they were expecting potentially snow in the forecast tomorrow, and it's supposed to be in the 50s on Friday. That's why that day is there.
Second year in a row where the home opener has been postponed today, but that's why, as you said, that's why that open date is there. It'll be Friday rather than Thursday. Everybody will be more comfortable at the game. And then it's supposed to get warmer from there. We're talking 60s, believe it or not, for most of the rest of the homestand.
I'll take anything right now above 40 as we could get
right.
that, at least in the upper Midwest when we're dealing with so far. When you look at on how, obviously we talked about the pitching and how well that is gone. What is, I guess, maybe anything really surprised you through the first 5 games? Say, boy, this, I don't know if we're counting on that so far.
Well, I had not seen Pablo Lopez pitch. So when he comes out and pitches into the 6th inning and only gives up a couple of hits and no runs, okay, right? Malley being able to do what he did with his restored velocity. Maeda last night, I think we knew Ryan and Sonny Gray were going to be okay. But again, that's how well the start of the season has gone. The starters have gone at least 5 in all the starts, and we'll see how this plays out. Now, granted, the Royals and Marlins aren't the 27 Yankees. They're not even the 27 Washington Senators. But, things will get tougher with the Astros coming to town and then the White Sox later on in the homestand.
You mentioned Pablo Lopez, who's going to go today against Luis Arraez, and Arraez is still doing what he does. He gets on base and makes things happen on the base pass. I am interested to see how this plays out today, because Lopez has got that command that people that's why he was the number 1 guy. I'll be intrigued to see how this goes today.
Right. I was a little disappointed to get the lineup, and Arraez is not in the lineup for the first time today. So it'll be Lopez going against everybody else. I talked with Louis yesterday and the day before, and he's still adjusting, I think, to life in Miami. He's, buying a house here, and for his family, it's going to be probably a really good thing. But if the Marlins are what people think they will be this year, and if the Twins continue to play well, I feel bad for Louis, because I know his heart is still in Minnesota.
Yeah. We'll take a break here. We come back much more with Dick Bremer on the backside of this, on the Twins in the home opener, what to expect at Target Field. I know they've made some improvements to the ballpark. For those that are going to be venturing down either on Friday or this summer, it's going to look a little bit different. We'll discuss that and everything else going around Major League Baseball as we'll do that here on this Wednesday morning on Hot Mic on WDAY Extra at Inforum.com. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody, to Hot Mic on WDAY Extra, Inforum.com on a snowy Wednesday. Hopefully this is about to get out of here as the day goes on. And as Dick was mentioning, it's going to be in the 60s down in the Twin Cities. We might get the 40s up here, which there'll be people out here with no shirts and shorts on, I imagine, by the weekend. The Twins are coming up at noon, wrapping up their series with the Marlins. I know this is the second time you've been down to that ballpark. Nobody goes. Is the ballpark nice? Is it a nice stadium there?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not a big fan of retractable roofs. Now, the first 2 games here, they've rolled it back and we played outdoor baseball, and that helps. And I suspect we're going to have outdoor baseball today. I don't think there's any reason to close the roof. But, again, as I said, okay, they got a problem in Tampa, St. Petersburg. And they had a problem in Oakland. Those are stadium related. You can't use that excuse here. And I don't know what's going to happen. They've had 3 ownership groups here. And I think it's fair to say that there have been issues with all 3 ownership groups in terms of what they're going to do to invest in the team and build the fan base. And it's been a challenge here, and some of it, I think, is self-inflicted.
I'm intrigued, because obviously there's the stadium talk about Oakland, about the A's moving. The Marlins, from everything I've read, that they fleeced the taxpayers to get a new stadium built, and then nobody goes. But then we saw at the World Baseball Classic what that stadium can be when it's packed. That was a great environment just a couple weeks ago.
And so there are your baseball fans, right?
Yeah.
And then you have Alcantara pitching last night, and they're 2,300 or however many were there. Obviously, there's a division between the team and the fan base, and they got to work on that. I don't know how you do that after all the pain that you put the fans through. But it's something that needs to be addressed either with this ownership group or the next.
Speaking of stadiums, we had Dave St. Peter on over the winter when the announcement of the football game of South Dakota State coming about the changes going on. Obviously, there's a huge new scoreboard that fans are going to see when they get to the game on Friday. That alone, I think, will grab everybody's attention for yourself as well. I know now this is year 14 of the stadium, which is crazy to say out loud, but what are we anticipating for other changes to see for fans down there?
It's just an ongoing process, and I I've said this on your show and other shows as well. I am really, really impressed with what the Twins have done to upgrade and update that ballpark. They could have sat on their hands. I doubt that there's been much of anything that's been done to the new Yankee Stadium, right? But the Twins are forever doing something different, changing restaurant locations. The area out in center field, those were box seats.
Yep.
And now they've got restaurant areas that are very popular. Excuse me. So I've really been impressed with what they've done to try to stay current and contemporary. And I haven't seen the new scoreboard. I haven't seen any of the changes, but I'm looking forward to doing that on Friday.
Would you say, and this is completely biased considering your location, but your location when you broadcast, is that the best spot to broadcast in baseball?
Yep. I think any play-by-play guy would tell you, even in basketball, I've never liked being courtside, right? When I've done college basketball, because you can't see, right?
Yeah.
The best location I ever had for basketball was at Assembly Hall in Bloomington, because we were elevated and just high enough so you could see into the lane, see what was a three-point shot and what wasn't.
Yeah.
But now in baseball, my seat is right behind home plate. I mean, right behind home plate. And if the pitcher throws a slider, I can see the break, right? And I've, I'm sure I've missed quite a few pitches over the years, but it's just a wonderful spot to be in. And I, forget I'm biased, right? But when other broadcasters come to Target Field, they love it too. It's just a great, great spot to announce baseball games.
Through the first almost week, what has stood out to you outside of the Twins? Any other surprises that you've seen around baseball? The Tampa is the only unbeaten. I don't know if anybody had the Rays at 5-0 to start the season.
Right. We talked in spring training and in the offseason too about how with the bigger bases and the limit on the pickoff throws, we'd see more stolen bases. Now the Twins haven't joined the party yet. They haven't even had anybody thrown out yet. Excuse me, I'm fighting a cold here. But I think in addition to the rapidity in which the games are being played, the style of play where now it seemed like for years baseball hitters lineups were just interested in 360 feet. Let's try to hit as many home runs as we can. Well, now I think we've seen evidence that maybe if you break it up, another 90 feet might be really, really important. And we'll see if the Twins today get their first stolen base.
You mentioned when we were on break that Byron Buxton back in the lineup today. You already mentioned that a couple of the lefties are going to sit with Trevor Larnach back in. This isn't your typical getaway game here. They want to get this one 5-1 on the road, man. You take that against two opponents that you consider to be better than. I know it's 162, but 5-1 is not as the best way you can draw it up, but it's pretty darn close.
And getting back to the depth that the Twins have built into this roster, you got guys in the lineup today like Farmer and Solano. Their history has been they're really good against left-handed pitchers. So it's not just, the fact that we've got some veterans on the bench, but these are guys as right-handed batters who have a history of doing well against lefties. So we'll see what happens this afternoon.
Before I let you go here, looking at the rest of the division, Cleveland's 4-2, everybody else under 500, kind of scuffling. Is that what you thought, or has anything surprised you on the Central yet?
Well, I think, it's just not even the first week of the season. I think there'll be some separation, maybe more in the American League Central than the other divisions between Cleveland, Chicago, and Minnesota, and Kansas City and Detroit. But, there's always a surprise team, too. Last year might have been the Baltimore Orioles, and they got off to a slow start, but then played really good baseball after that. So we'll see how it plays out. there aren't as many games within the division.
Yep.
And you say, well, that's tough because now the Twins have to play the National League East and all that. Well, so do the Guardians and so do the White Sox, right? So that's a balancing act there. But we'll see once we get rolling here and get some games against Cleveland and Chicago to see whether there's a little separation.
What I do like today, this is old school, that of all the games playing today, only one is a night game.
Yeah.
I love it. How about that? That's fantastic.
And as someone who's going to fly across the country today, I love it too.
Thanks so much for the time as always. Be well. Have a great broadcast, and we'll see you next week from Minneapolis. Okay.
Target Field. You got it, Don.
Yeah. Good to see you, bud. There he goes. Dick Bremer joining us live on location from Miami as the Marlins and the Twins are set to go coming up later today with a noon start, as it'll be Pablo Lopez starting against his old team. You heard Dick mention there, no Luis Arraez in the lineup today for the Marlins. Jesus Luzardo will get the start, lefty for Miami, who's already won a game already this season. He won 5 2/3, beat the Mets his first time out. Right now, Bunnell will tell me who's not beating the Mets, considering the Brewers have scored like 18,000 runs against him over the Twins have had a nice start, and getting Buxton back in the lineup today, good deal there. And, you know, it's important to start well, especially with the weather the way it is. And it sounds crazy to say that, but just it gets people excited about the baseball season. And if the team is competitive and early on and playing good baseball, I think that adds a little level of juice to it around here, especially knowing we're not going to be playing outdoors in the not too distant future for a while. I think that adds some added excitement for it. And as you look around baseball right now, I mean, the Rays obviously have everybody's attention at unbeaten at 5-0. I thought it was interesting until yesterday, and we'll talk about this with Brett Peterson coming up in a few minutes. The Phillies hadn't won a game yet. Philadelphia won its first game last night when they beat the Yankees. That's the reigning National League champions in the basement of the National League right now. And again, it's 160 some odd games. You got a long way to go. So to freak out about a bad stretch, everybody has that in baseball. It's the culmination of the whole thing. But you don't want to be starting 0-5. You don't want to have a start like that to kind of doom you where you're at. So they pick up the win, and for the Twins, off to a really nice start. And to see Kenta Maeda go like he did, strike out 9 like he did on over 5 innings, that's a really nice piece. I will say, again, the time of games is just going to shock everybody. Literally, and I'll tell this story quick before we go to break. I mean, Jackman's bedtime's around 7 o'clock, 7:15. I'm like, all right, I'll catch the end of the ball game when I get upstairs. Got upstairs, it's 7:45. The game's over. The game was over. As I turned on the post-game show was on, like, holy cow. And I mean, this is going to be something even for TV networks to adjust to, because they normally put in like 3 hours for a baseball game. Maybe it's 2.5 now. They're going to be filling some time with the games getting done as early as they are. So crazy to see that. Twins, though, wrapping up their series today with the Marlins. We'll have highlights of that coming up on our news tonight at 6. We'll take a break. We come back. We'll visit with one of our favorite guests, West Fargo baseball head coach Brett Peterson, about what he's doing with his team. They're in their 3rd week of practice, and there are no games in sight, at least probably for the next month. We'll do that when Hot Mike returns on WDAY Extra and Inforum.com. Welcome back, everybody, to Hot Mike here on WDAY Extra Inforum.com. Doing the show here from home today with the snow pile is waiting for me, and for everybody else out there, hopefully it's going to get out of town here pretty quick and actually start some freaking melting so we can do some things outside. Our next guest is certainly echoes that. And I hate that every time I talk to him, it's about the weather. We're never actually talking to him about his baseball team, as we welcome on West Fargo longtime head coach of the baseball team. Brett Peterson is good enough to join us. So forgive my rant. I'm going to do this because you know where I'm going. It's already your 3rd week of practice, which, by the way, is crazy to me. There's only so much you can do indoors. Like I got to imagine now you're just climbing the walls, right?
Yeah, you really are. When you're inside, we have batting cages we can slide out so you get your hitting work in, and the pitchers and catchers can get their workouts in. So that's primary focus number one right now is just building those arms up to get ready to go outside. But beyond that, it really gets repetitive doing the same drills. Outfielders, you're very limited with outfield drills, and even infielders taking gym ground balls just isn't the same. So yeah, once you start that third week, that's when you start getting a little stir crazy waiting to get outside.
So I think you and I have talked about this. I'm a big proponent of what Minnesota does. They start later. I don't know why you guys start practice so early. I understand the Legion schedule would be an issue. If the high school association was coming to tell you, hey, we're going to start practice on April 1 and you're going to start playing April 15th, would you be on board with that?
I think so. That said, there have been, believe it or not, look out the window right now, it's hard to believe, but even 2 years ago, we were playing games this week, so you do have those years, but I think, most years you start playing games around that April 15th window anyway. You build the schedule in starting right there, and you're probably going to get the same amount of games in as you normally do. So I would not be opposed to starting a little bit later, and then, maybe having the option to do some workouts preseason if you do, or it is looking like maybe a more favorable spring to get outside.
Well, I mean, looking now, what do you think, May 1st maybe for your first game? Maybe.
Man, yeah, like you said, we've had conversations about weather on this show past years, and the biggest difference this year that's kind of unprecedented for any year is the melting process just hasn't started. So we've had April blizzards before many times, but you're back outside 5 days later because it melts, it dries, and you're going. And, you add 10 inches of snow or whatever we do end up getting on top of what we already have. I really can't tell you how long it's going to take to melt, dry, frost has to come up. I think May 1st is realistically the goal.
And it's unfair as well, because then you're going to say, okay, we want you to go play, and you haven't been outside at all. So, right. How fair is it's not fair to anybody that, okay,
right.
You've been inside. Okay, now go play a baseball game.
Yeah, we're hoping next weekend is the Battle of Dakotas in Sioux Falls, which quite a few of the Metro teams go to. Yeah. And right now they missed this storm, and what I'm hearing is they're relatively dry. So I think we are holding out hope that we get out on a field. But again, that'll be our first time. Not just on a field, just plain old outside. So it's not ideal, but we can do things to make sure arms are prepared, and you obviously take things a lot slower with pitch counts, things like that. But yeah, you're playing games without even stepping onto a field, and that's a challenge.
That to me is the rub of this. And I'm going to put you in a bad spot, but if this was happening in the fall or the winter, if we lost a month of the football season or a month of basketball, the sky would be falling. And just for the spring sports, it's just accepted that baseball, softball, tennis, track, golf, well, that's not fair. I don't understand why it's accepted here and not if the others, because if we were missing a month of football, the sky would be falling.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I think living here as long as we have, you just know that spring is the worst time of the year. It just is. And we flat out skip spring half the time, which looks like this right now. And, with how nice it would be for baseball to be a fall sport. Can you imagine the state tournament in October nights? But then, you're running into football and you're running into, a lot of conflicts. You lose some players. So, you got to deal with the spring. And by the time we get to late May, you do get those 60, 70 degree nights. But yeah, you're right, though. I mean, spring sports, it is just accepted that it's going to be a bit of a grind, usually weather-wise, and we're just kind of at the mercy of Mother Nature.
You know what, though? I think that's the first time I've heard that for the fall. I'd be on board with that. I think I think that makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, I know. You just think we're always outside on those October nights, and then you're thinking, man, can you imagine if we were playing baseball now tonight? It would be, you just don't get those kinds of nights in the spring.
Because the alternative I hear is then, well, let's turf everything. Chris Coast was talking about that on my show Monday. I don't want that. I know you guys have it for your infield. I don't want that as a baseball guy. I don't want turf because then you can go play. I know everyone's going to race out to Shiloh, out to Bismarck to play baseball games because they have a turf field out there.
Yeah, I'm with you. We have the turf infield, and trust me, it is nice because we will be, once the snow does melt, we will be able to at least go out there and take some ground balls and throw while there's still snow in the outfield. So definitely an advantage that way. But to your point, you still like the variety of fields that you play in. It's fun to play on our turf, but it's also fun to go play over in Cheyenne, play on the all natural surface and things like that. So yeah. And in a year like this, turf really isn't going to save us all that much. It's just not.
What do you think long-term this affects guys wanting to come out, not just for baseball, but other sports? Because what are we going to have, a month of the season and then it's over?
Yeah. We talk about that too. And I don't think that I can't see guys just saying, I'm not going to go out because of the weather. We do have good inside facilities. We're over at the Ladone Center right now. The Ruststead Center, which is new in West Fargo, is a huge turf area that we have reserved a couple times. So, there's still that, you still get that itch to play baseball, and you still are doing some things, and there is light at the end of the tunnel. You kind of know, hey, it's not good right now, but it's coming. Even if we get out to Sioux Falls in a week, it's guys are going to be really excited to play baseball. So I don't see participation going down because of it, but doesn't make it any less frustrating to be in the position that we're in right now.
So watching last night, I'm flipping the channels and I see the Yankees are playing the Phillies, and lo and behold, I see Matt Strom is starting at Yankee Stadium, something he's done before, by the way, which is crazy. Goes 4 innings, strikes out 3. The hair is flowing. Would you just? It seems crazy now that he's done this multiple times at Yankee Stadium, but it seemed like he was on point last night, Brett.
Oh, he really was. I mean, I know going into the season signing with the Phillies, he's not sure starter, reliever, and probably still kind of up in the air. But man, he gets a spot start last night, and he took advantage. You and I were talking before we got on. He's probably deserved another start for sure, and see where it goes. But yeah, it's so fun to watch him out there competing and still doing what he's doing.
Tell me, if watching from afar, and I know you had a chance to talk with him, how his career has played out here. Now that he's on, what is this now, a 4th different team, how this is all, I mean, this is professional baseball, professional sports. How, in your mind, is the road taking him in a different way than maybe it was intended to when he came up with the Royals 6 years ago?
Maybe in some ways, but I think if you take a look at, especially, he's kind of been now a relief pitcher, right? And you see relief pitchers don't stick around with teams for very long for various reasons. And as a lefty, he's always going to, if he's available with the stuff that he still has, someone's going to get him, right? So I don't think his career path and trajectory is that much different than a lot of relievers, that maybe except for your high-end closers that sign those multi-year long-term deals. But, I think he's just taking every opportunity he gets, and he still loves the game and still works hard. And, he looks like the same pitcher he did, a few years ago, if not better stuff. Yeah. I think his command last night was real. I think just 1 walk last night in that 4 innings. So, I think he'd tell you he's pretty happy with the way things have gone and where he's at right now.
He's got his own TV show, man. I mean, I don't know if we could have planned that.
No, I didn't see that. Fun to watch. And you see how passionate he is, with the card collecting and the different things and the following he's kind of gotten from it. So, which is cool, because really when I was a kid, if you had extra money, you went and bought baseball cards, and that's just not the case with a lot of kids anymore. So he's kind of bringing that back, and it's real fun to watch.
Did you know that about him when he was here?
No, I really didn't know that he was that avid a collector. That, like I said, that's just kind of something that, you just almost make the assumption that kids don't buy baseball cards anymore. It's just not one of those things that it is like when we were kids. So that is one thing I definitely did not know that he had.
I have a stack of home at my house, boxes still, like a King Griffey Jr. rookie card that my dad still has in the plastic sleeve,
Oh, me too. You tried to get that 89 Griffey Upper Deck and that Bo Jackson black and white scorecard. Yes. I mean, we would buy packs just to get those cards.
I got an email to ask you about Andy Young. Can you tell us what's up with Andy and where things are going with him?
He's kind of a free agent right now. I think just kind of waiting for the call. I know he's still working out, still staying in shape. The last I heard was kind of, his agent said, just be ready. As the season gets, I think he kind of anticipated breaking camp, maybe not being on the big league roster. And, I think he's just working out, staying in shape. And, the kind of hitter that he is, I think that as injuries happen, as different things happen with these organizations as the season goes on, I think, a month or 2 into the season, I think he's hoping to get that call, get that another opportunity.
It's funny because how COVID affected him. I think he was just meteoric rise through the minors to get up after the trade to the Diamondbacks. And I think the Diamondbacks really liked him. It just that their organization, I'll say it, is frankly has been a mess for the last 3 or 4 years. I don't know if they knew exactly where to put him, but he can. I mean, as you well know, I think baseball fans around the area, he can hit the cover off the ball.
Oh, no question. Yeah, I mean, he when he comes back to town and works out with our guys, I mean, we just want our guys to watch him take batting practice. I mean, the ball just sounds different coming off his bat. So clearly he can still hit. And I think you make a great point about, if the COVID thing wouldn't have happened and things getting interrupted and things like that, it may have worked out differently with Arizona. But yeah, to your point, that also they had no idea what direction they're going. Rebuilding. They have a mixture of, then they have some veterans. You're like, why? If they're rebuilding, are they going this route? So yeah, just not a great organizational standpoint, maybe when he was there, and then you throw COVID on top of it. And yeah, I think, but he's waiting for an opportunity, and I'm hoping that he still gets one, because I think he can no question hit at that level.
All right, I got to ask you an impossible question here. Seeing 2 of your former pitchers in the Summit League, and Tristan Rorich and Ryan Barassa, each now one plays for the Bison, one plays for the Jackrabbits. What that's been like, and the potential, the Summit League baseball tournament is at Newman Outdoor Field, that these guys are going to be right in your own backyard here hopefully at the end of next month.
Yeah. In the state tournament when they were in high school, so right. they're familiar with that mound a little bit, and yeah, just again watching the progression of those guys, and what we do as a program is when we have guys that are playing college baseball and their college season gets done sometimes beginning of May, but usually we're still in season, so we invite those guys to come and work out and throw and just be around our current guys, so they can see some of the things that they do now at the college level to prepare, get ready, and B, they kind of say, hey, these guys were where we are at one time, and now look where they are. So yeah, that was so fun to see those guys out there. We'll definitely have to be out there watching as a group if they're one or four, lucky enough, both of them are thrown at the same time.
Well, I know Ryan became a closer, and Tristan was in both the long relief, then closer, now starter with the Bison. It's interesting to see how their roles have been used in college.
Yeah, and they kind of were that way in high school too, especially younger. Yeah. When both of them were younger, we were pretty deep on the mound with upperclassmen, so they were more of that relief pitcher role, closer role, guys that could come in and just pound the zone with with a good fastball and some off-speed stuff. And then as they got older, junior, senior, they were obviously at the front end of our rotation. But they've had some experience with both, and they've handled both roles really, really well. So it's always nice to be able to do both. It gives you more opportunities to get on the mound at that level.
It's great to see you. I wish we were talking under different circumstances. Good luck shoveling at the end of the driveway, and we'll actually talk some baseball soon, okay?
Absolutely.
Yeah. There he goes. Brett Peterson, West Fargo baseball coach, joining us this morning on Hot Mic. As he mentioned, the Packers are going to be playing in that duel of the Dakotas, hopefully next week in Sioux Falls, as they eventually will start the baseball season down there. We're due for our final break. We'll take it now. We'll come back. We'll wrap up the show, get you ready for what to watch on this Wednesday. Hot Mic wraps after this on WDAY Extra and Inforum.com. Welcome back, everybody, as we are wrapping up the show on this Wednesday morning live from the Izzo Bunker. Appreciate everybody helping us out, our great crew back at WDAY, and making this technologically possible. The way we pulled this off, we were able to do it with only like one minor hiccup. We were good to go. Apparently, we have to show this score again for the second day in a row. You're going to shove it in my face. The Mets have been outscored 19-0 against the Brewers in the first two games of this set. That is awful. Scherzer was bad. They had what do they have, Eric? 4 back-to-back home runs in the game yesterday in the game. Just terrible. Look at that stat. Lost 17 of the last 20 games in Milwaukee. Blow up the stadium. It's like a cave anyway there at Miller Park. I don't care what it's called. American Family Field. Final game of that series is coming up later today. I didn't have time to get to this yesterday, and we know I'm not skirting the question with Dick Bremer, but again, Dick has told us that he doesn't really know much more of anything on the subject. But the Sports Business Journal reported yesterday that Diamond Sports, who owns Bally Sports North, missed its monthly payment to the Twins. So they have now 13 days to make the payment without penalty. They also missed the payment to the Guardians as well. SBJ reports one reason for not paying it is the deal with the Twins. We talked about this with Bally and the Twins is done after this season. Bally, of course, wants to re-up with the Twins. The Twins were saying, why would we do that with a company that's in bankruptcy? It's really interesting. Now, again, here's the thing. If they don't make the payment, baseball is going to swoop in and put the games on a different channel that will be made available on cable and satellite. But something to keep an eye on here, folks. Again, the Twins is in the Guardians is a different situation because the Guardians and Bally Sports Ohio have a deal, I think, through 2027. The Twins deal is up after this season. So let's keep an eye on that. Already, it's really hard to watch the games. I had an email come in say it's too expensive and we can't find the games. Baseball's making this awfully hard, folks, especially now that the product is quicker to watch and it's even harder to find. That's a storyline we've been watching for a bit, and we'll continue to update that as we go forward. One last thing before we get into what to watch. Daniel Jeremiah from the NFL Network just published his top 50 NFL prospect rankings. Lo and behold, Hankinson's Cody Mauch comes in at 38 on that list, which is probably, I think, right about where his draft status is going to be, which would be early in the second round. He writes, Mauch is an excellent athlete who plays with balance and awareness. In pass protection, he pops out of his stance, stays square, and sinks his weight. When we all love to do that. The North Dakota State tape shows him effortlessly sliding and mirroring opponents. Defenders can get to his chest on occasion, and there is some concern about his lack of length. He ends with saying, I think Mauch might need some time to adjust to NFL competition, but he should settle in as a solid starter somewhere along the offensive line. So, again, we mentioned draft 3 weeks from tomorrow gets going in Kansas City. Before to watch, we do this each and every day. Wrapping up the show, as we mentioned, the Twins are coming up here later today, a noon start, which seems perfect for those of you that are stuck at home or have the day off. Twins and Marlins at noon on Bally Sports North as Pablo Lopez starts against his former team later today. The Women's World Hockey Championship begins today in Ontario. The United States plays at 3 o'clock against Japan. You can watch that on the NHL Network. Britta Curl plays for the United States. The Pride of Bismarck, Wisconsin's captain, who just won the national championship, now going for a World Hockey Championship, 3 o'clock today on the NHL Network. And one of my favorite events all year, the Masters Par 3 contest, 2 o'clock today on ESPN. Tom Hoagie will be participating in that before he tees off tomorrow in the opening round of that. Thanks to our Dick. We appreciate Greg and to Brett. We'll see everybody tomorrow back in studio on Hot Mic. We'll see you then.